as you brought up, Keith, from the president, and I just want to go over a few of them just to give this some balance, because the president has shared video of supporters saying the only good Democrat is a dead Democrat. The New York Times reported that Trump calling Dems' video to service members seditious behavior or punishable by death. Trump blasting prosecutors he appointed for not giving Hunter Biden a death sentence. I mean, there's a lot of rhetoric that has been used by the president that is incendiary at the very least. So how do you explain that when you have someone going, hey, stop this, but only talking about the left and not saying, hey, let's all stop this?
Well, first of all, I want to point out, I don't think he's only talking about the left. I think he's...
Well, he said he blamed the left.
Donald Trump has said a lot over the last 10 years. Tonight we're talking about the left, but Donald Trump has also asked people to respect police officers and to respect authority and to respect ICE agents who are risking it all. Truly, at this point in time, based on what happened today, we know that they're risking their lives to get this job done. They were respected up until Donald Trump became president. Wanting immigration enforcement was a normal, moderate viewpoint until Donald Trump became president. We all became racist all of a sudden. So the problem is not that Donald Trump came in and did something different. The problem is that after Donald Trump ran, everything that we knew to be basic decency, basic common sense American policy went out the window because everyone hated Donald Trump so much, and we all became racist for wanting proper immigration policy. So I think the president has to be separated from what happened today. And if you want to sit here and talk about January 6th, which I think we're going to do on the show till the end of time, we should also be able to say, hey, when Democrats actually run on the same message that this man today was holding, get ICE off of our streets, no more ICE, abolish ICE, resist ICE, this is going to continue to happen.
Christine, what do you see?
That's ridiculous.
People can take a position that ICE should be abolished. That you may disagree with it, but it is not a insane policy position. There are a lot of people who feel that that is the right thing. And today we saw 38 senators ask for reforms. Yes, enforcement, but reforms. Is the secretary correct that rhetoric has an impact? Without a doubt. And is what happened today outrageous and unacceptable? Yes. But we cannot hold Democrats to one standard and then say, not just a Republican, but the highest ranking elected official in the country, it's okay for him to say hateful, incendiary things, and he is not held accountable. And also, people having concerns about ICE, there were just 2 individuals killed by ICE agents. And every day we're learning more about one of those ICE agents. I'm talking. One of those ICE agents having a history of domestic violence and perhaps even traumatic brain injury. So there are real legitimate concerns. 100%. But overall, it's not just the left and it's not just the right. Everybody needs to take rhetoric down.
Okay, you said that, the Democrats are in favor of reforming the INS. Why didn't they do it? They ran the place when Joe Biden was president, and millions of illegal immigrants came into the country, and they did nothing about that. That's not reforming the INS. That's just saying anybody can come into the country.
What I said was the letter today.
Yeah, but why didn't they do it when they had the power to do it?
The letter today is about reforming ICE and their functions. And 38 senators signed that today in the present, because in the present we have real problems.
The reason people didn't complain about ICE during Biden, because the ICE didn't do anything under Joe Biden. They let illegal immigrants come into the country.
The reason why Democrats did not do anything about that is because your president, Donald Trump, told them not to. They had a bipartisan immigration bill, and Donald Trump called up the United States senators and said, do not pass that bill.
No, I'm talking about the law. The law was the law.
I'm talking about immigration enforcement. You said, why didn't Democrats do something about all the immigrants coming in? They tried to do something, and Donald Trump said, don't do it. As far as reforming or limiting ICE, Democrats are taking action right now. They're sending a letter. First of all, not that that's enough.
Why didn't they just stop the illegal immigration?
But 10 people have been killed by ICE since this year.
A lot of people have been killed by illegal immigrants
in the past year. Since Donald Trump took office. That didn't happen under Biden's administration.
So let me make sure I understand. This deranged anti-ICE leftist tries to blow up the federal office in New York today, and that's Donald Trump's fault. Joe Biden.
Nobody said that.
You just gave a long speech about it.
Never said that. You didn't listen to a word I said, did you?
No one said that.
Joe Biden doesn't enforce immigration laws. And that's Donald Trump's fault. I'm trying to identify the end of the Choose Your Own Adventure book where it doesn't end with it's Donald Trump's fault. Stephen is right. They did not enforce the law. And you know who will tell you that? Anybody that works for ICE today will tell you when they were working there under Biden, they were told not to enforce immigration law. We haven't passed any new laws. And today, we had the 14th straight month of no releases at the border. The border is closed. Not a single new law was passed. The only difference is the feds are enforcing longstanding existing law. And you have Democrats now demonizing the people enforcing it, and you have people like this lunatic showing up trying to blow up the federal building.
Nobody's supporting this guy who did the firebombing at the federal building today. So let's get that clear. What we are saying is that if you're going to condemn political violence, at least be consistent, because the top purveyor of political violence in our country is Donald Trump.
Let me just, you mentioned something, Christina, and there's been some news on what happened in Maine. CNN's Aaron Burnett spoke to the ex-wife of David Brulette. He's the ICE officer connected to the fatal shooting of 25-year-old Joan Sebastian Duran Guerrero in Maine. That was last week. She says that he was the one who shot Guerrero, told her that, but CNN hasn't independently confirmed that. She's also accusing her ex-husband of physical and emotional abuse, which Brulette has denied in the past. She alleges that he once threw boiling water at her while she was still carrying their daughter and left a voicemail not long ago, threatening to kill her. I just want to give you a sense of what she said to Aaron Burnett about him and sort of wondering why he is an ICE agent in the first place.
Do you believe he's someone who should be an ICE agent, armed ICE agent?
No, I don't believe that he's anyone that should be obtaining a job that requires any kind of weapon. Just for the simple fact of how he's done in his marriages, even